Wilderness Podcast. This is Johnny D.
Welcome to episode 245 of the Wilderness Podcast. I am Dilz, and joining me today, Trey. You there?
Hey, yo. Yeah,
hey, awesome. So we're continuing our Rebalance series. Jagex has been hosting these like game jams. I think we mentioned it last week, but it seems like it's like free time for the devs to kind of come up with their own projects or just work on something that they just want to work on. And we are seeing a lot of different stuff, everything from like dogs, dog pets. Someone made like a bunch of different dog breeds that you could get in the game. They're not in the game, but you see a few dog models. But some devs have been working on this rebalance where they're looking at all these different parts of the game and making these tweaks. And today we're going to be looking at the NPC defense rebalances or defense changes. So they're kind of looking at the way, I guess, damage is done and the different types of accuracy stats we have and looking to expand on those and what that could mean for the game and what type of like new niche items that might bring down the road. So it's a pretty interesting idea. It kind of reminds me of way back in like 2020 or 2021. Trey, do you remember when they did like this whole rebalance to a bunch of like lower tier weapons, a lot of free to play stuff? So they made like Warhammers better because you don't need you don't need an attack level to wield it. You just needed strength.
Yeah, I remember that when they made it so it wasn't just the scimitar all the way to the top.
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of, for some reason, this reminds me a little bit of that change. It's not quite the same, but I guess we will get into it. But before we do, before we embark on this part 2 of the rebalance journey, Trey, you've been on your own journey since you've been on the podcast. You've maxed. You've learned that PVM and PvP is not where you want to go. Unless I'm completely mixed up, because you are doing Inferno. So now, as I say that, I feel like I'm wrong.
No, I've definitely tried out some different avenues. I think when I maxed, one of the big things for me was that I didn't want to be one of those people who maxed and put all this time into their account and then abandoned their account. You see that a lot from people. Usually they'll either, take a break for like 6 months or completely burn out of the game, or they'll just make a different account. I was trying to avoid that. And so I was going and doing all these different, high level PVM stuff like I've talked about. And I don't know. Nothing was kind of doing it for me. But something I've always tried to do with this game, instead of completely burning out, is always kind of like swerve right before the burnout, and move into a different avenue. Through my maxing, it was always like that. It was like, I'm at 97 mining, and I know that if I push through to 98 mining, I'm never going to make it to 99, because I'll burn out for 6 months. And so I would go out to agility or something. But anyways, all that to say, I started an Iron Man, probably no surprise to a lot of people who've been on the same journey. Just kind of as a way, because I had a little bit of a breaking point. I was watching, what really boiled down to is I was watching some people who were doing some death matching, and they were just losing hundreds and hundreds of millions of GP. And
death matching is like the new dual arena stake.
Yeah, exactly. They're gambling, and all it was an Iron Man who had, I believe, on their way to trying to green log next. I don't know what next drop they were looking for, but they had gotten a bunch of duplicates of certain items. And if the next duplicates or next items are worth, like 400 mil each. So this person had a lot of extra items that their Iron Man had no use for. So they dropped it over to their main that they didn't really have any use for. And, long story short, they they just deathmatched it all because they had no use for that money and no desire, and it just meant nothing to them. And that really, I don't know, just seeing that and kind of seeing how GP can be just so meaningless in this game. I don't know, it kind of broke my brain a little bit. And I just started seeing everything as GP, and every Iron Man out there is nodding along with me right now. I don't know. It kind of it made me not want to play it. You know, I was in the middle of a Muspa grind when that was all going on, and every Muspa kill I would just, you know, I would see, you know, I mean, those Muspa kills are like 300K drops, and I just look at it and just kind of be like, oh, okay, I feel nothing.
It's tough. I feel like a lot of people, when they get into the end game, which is like you're maxed and the next, like all the goals in front of you, they just devolve into like acquiring items which you can just buy. So most people are just trying to figure out how can I make as much money as fast as possible so I could buy the T-bow or buy whatever weapon it is that you desire, because that's like your new goal. You're maxed. You don't really care about leveling up your other skills and stuff, and you're a main account. So the money grind is a big problem. I faced that like I guess it was like 4 years ago. I got my T-bow and I was like, okay, great, and do my rebuild. And then I realized that like it felt weird doing content when it was like, why am I doing the Abyssal Sire? I know it's barely any money, and the best drops are like 10 mil, which is still only like 10% of what I need for my next upgrade, which isn't even true. Like I probably need way more than 100 mil for my next upgrade. So it gets tough, and like some people, like I tried to masquerade it with pet grinding. I'm going to go for the pet and I'll just make a lot of money along the way, which a lot of people can do that. And a lot of people do that. And it's good. But pet grinding is a very endurance based goal. And I did not have that in me. So I'm not getting my pets and I'm still not making much money. I found the collection log was a happy medium. For people. No,
I found that like I really enjoyed easy pet hunts. Like like when I did my bow for rebuild, like the giant mole pet hunt, that was my type of pet hunt. You know, it's super chill. You're making money and you're going for a pet. But yeah, the high intensity, like even my definition of high intensity, like something like a Vardorvis pet hunt, I don't think I can maintain that level of like paying attention, like that high level of attention paid to the game for that long amount of time. That part of it's not for me. And I kind of ran out of all of the kind of more chill pet hunts, and that was also something that was contributing to like me not knowing what to do. And I mean, honestly, it all kind of speaks to a larger, because I mean, I'm saying all of this like, oh, I don't want to do the end game where I'm just grinding all the same bosses over and over and over again for these items. But like, if I get this Iron Man to a high level, I'm going to be doing the exact same thing, and it'll be even worse because I'll have fewer items. I mean, everybody says that those drops will mean more to me when I do get them. But I don't know. I think it just kind of came down to like, I kind of just want to get all the same achievements I have on my main on another account. And it's like, I might as well do it on an Iron. Like I'm more interested in like maxing this Iron Man. That would be my end goal rather than, you know, whatever, Shadow, T-bow, Infernal Cape kind of goals that a lot of people probably have. I don't know. I'm probably going to play this account exactly the same way as my last one, with obviously some necessary differences. And the other part of it that's really exciting is my mindset is going to be the same, but the methods I use for everything is going to be super different because like I've already ran into so many different things that weren't in the game when I was at this stage in my account the first time around. So that part of it's super exciting. Like I know, obviously all this Varlamore stuff. I know that some people are telling me with Varlamore that I should be doing Hunter, like that the new meta now apparently instead of Winter Todd to 99 for Iron Man is Hunter to 99 with the rumors because of all the stuff you get from it and all the prayer XP and stuff you get from it. But
that's really cool. That's the nice thing about doing an iron. It's like the longer you take to actually make one, the more stuff there is to do. So it's not, there's pros to waiting to maxing your first account,
Well, yeah, and I think there are a lot of things that I've really have liked so far. I mean, I've only been doing it for about 2 weeks now. This is my account that got ridiculously spooned a heron pet on the very first fishing trawler I did at 35 Fishing. So that's my only real claim to fame on it. But I realized another thing about kind of play style that I realized that is in addition to like what type of account you play, I think also there's a big difference in like, there's a big difference in how much that you, how many different accounts you like to play at the same time. I think that like the concept of multi-logging, I think for some people kind of goes without saying, that like, I guess the idea that I'm going to start an Iron Man and I'm going to keep playing on my main is something that for a lot of people is like, well, obviously that's how I'm going to do it. But that's kind of why I've never really committed on this iron. Like I camped him at like rock crabs or something or sand crabs for a while, but it wasn't until I had this kind of moment where I was like, I'm just going to take a week off of my main. I'm not going to log onto my main for a week. I'm only going to play the Iron Man. And really that commitment to it really helped a lot, I think, in making me kind of feel the account. And I don't know, there's just a few different conversations I had with people that are super interesting to me. I mean, just, from a perspective of someone who likes to overanalyze every single thing they do, there was some interesting conversations. One person was basically like, well, yeah, you beat the game. Like you got a max cape, you got a diary cape, you got a music cape. Like those are the goals for your account. And you're not, once again, you're not looking to pull a T-bow. You're not looking to, you did do some Inferno, but that's not like your big like drive. So like, yeah, you accomplish the goals for your account. And so why not just do that on another account? And, another person, we had a lot of talks about the like sunk cost fallacy with my main of like, oh, I still want to do all these other things and I don't want to, all this time I've put into it. And they're like, yeah, well, the sooner you make that switch, the sooner that you can start getting to that point on your new account. But anyways, yeah, so it's just really interesting seeing, I kind of feel like I'm seeing the game from a whole new angle. And, I went to Guardians of the Rift and holy crap, it is so much better for early game rune crafting. Like that is my
good.
My first experience with like content that wasn't around. I can't believe it. I can't believe how fast I've gotten to. I'm at 55 rune crafting right now, and I've probably I think I've played 30 games of Guardians of the Rift. And that, yeah, I'm just remembering the days running back and forth to the different rune altars.
It sucked. And even like, I remember I did ZMI when it came out. I just like no-lifed it for a week to get to 77. And I remember like, God, it like wasn't fun. I remember I was staying in an Airbnb because I moved out of one house, moving into another, but it wasn't ready yet. So I was staying in these Airbnbs and I had like a week off or something from work. So I just rune crafted all week. And I remember just like thinking like, wow, that was a waste of a week. Like I did not have fun. I don't think I had a moment of joy, but hey, I'm 77 rune crafting. So it was all worth it.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know how I did that.
I guess I could. Yeah, ZMI is also available, isn't it? But I don't think I could do ZMI without that lunar teleport, which
it's not as good. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think
Guardians of the Rift is amazing.
It is amazing. It's I don't know. Iron Man, honestly, the like overarching kind of principle to me of Iron Man is that it makes the game take longer. And at the end of the day, if I'm going to be playing this for the rest of my life, then I guess I'll take the route that everything takes a little bit longer instead of just kind of skipping grinds to get to the end game, you know. And I fully reserve the right next time we record to be like, yeah, I'm not playing that ever again. That was a mistake.
Maybe that, you know what, that's what I went through. I went through the exact same thing. I was like all gung-ho about making a Iron account. So I did Dilz the second, and I was playing it a bunch, and I was like, this is going to be awesome. I did a bunch of Winter Todd. I'm like, I'm not going to leave here until I get the Tome of Fire. And I got it really early at like 85. Plus, like, I had a full Pyroman. Like, I had everything unlocked except for the pets. So I was like, okay, my Winter Todd is done. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. Now what? I started doing some quests, and then it just like, I kind of had the revelation too, but it was the opposite. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to enjoy this. Like, I'm not really having fun, and I don't think I'm going to have fun, but I'm doing it because I don't know why I was doing it. I think I was like romanticizing the Iron Man mode and hearing people talk so highly about it. You know, you get caught up in the, oh, I want to get so excited for my drops and stuff. But then, yeah, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know. I don't know if right where I'm at in this game, I don't think this Iron Man is for me yet right now. So I ended up shelving it, and I haven't really played it since. But
no, yeah, I haven't. Like, I know that's probably like the number one inspiration for people is that like getting that drop from Zulrah, you know, that first Zulrah drop that really like means like you've made this progress on your account, you know, or the enhanced crystal seed from Corrupted Gauntlet. That's like the big like I've made it as an Iron Man. But for me, I think the thing that's just exciting, like I went to rune crafting pretty much as quickly as possible because I do love the feeling of like I'm going to be making the runes that I'm going to be using. And that feels so good that like it is also, it does. The other side of that is I do worry about getting 99 rune crafting and making all these runes and then running out of runes and having to go back. But you know, that's a problem for another day. But like it really is eliminating the middleman, you know, like when I on my main account, I would use my farming to make herbs, and then I would sell those herbs to get money to buy unfinished potions so I could, you know, make potions. And it just that there's that weird kind of like middleman of the grand exchange instead of just turning those herbs into potions. And yeah, it's like, I think because as an Iron Man, that's not even possible. It feels better than, you know, on a main account, obviously I wasn't going to make those unfinished potions because it's essentially just a waste of time. And since you have it is possible to, you know, make those buyable skills faster, you know, you're kind of dumb not to, even if you do kind of want to play your account kind of like an Iron Man. It's really hard to not do that unless you're playing an account where it's literally, you know, impossible to. So I am looking forward to doing some of that type of skilling. Obviously there's things I'm not looking forward to. The Corrupted Gauntlet's probably the biggest one. I know that is. Yeah. I'm not very good at that.
Dragon Warhammer was one that I was like, ugh, just the idea of it makes me not want to play Iron.
But see that's where things are so different for me, I guess. Cause like I would like, if I gave you my account and if you did Corrupted Gauntlet for me, I'll do Dragon Warhammer for your account. Cause like, I love those just mindless, repetitive, long, boring grinds way more than the like something like Corrupted Gauntlet where you just have to have, you know, your full focus, full intensity. Even if it takes half as long, having to be that fully focused for a long amount of time is very, very difficult for me. But so I'm looking forward to
it. It's interesting.
It is. I mean, I don't know. There's just so many things that I'm looking forward to now, and I'm just loving just taking my time with it. And it does in a lot of ways. It feels kind of like the pressure's off because like I've got my max main. You know, like I did kind of beat the game. This is kind of new game plus, and that's how I'm treating it. And I'm just kind of taking my time to kind of smell the roses as I'm going through everything. And I am space barring through every quest. I try so hard not to, but I am. I won't deny that part. There's a lot of quests.
Can't even really blame you.
That's the one thing I promised myself I would do on this account is pay attention to the quests, and it's yeah.
You know what? Like, but some of the writing for especially the older quests, it's like it's so inconsistent. Some of it's really good, some of it sucks. Some of it feels like it was geared for like children. Like you're playing it, you're like, wow, this was like a really goofy, silly quest, but in a way that like it's I'm not the audience, I don't think.
Well, and just the design of the game, like it's so interesting. I mean, obviously, everything we do in this game. You can see this, but since I've been doing a lot of questing and I've been kind of interacting with these different kind of eras of the game very quickly back and forth with each other, something that has been really standing out is just how inconsistent the game is with like, essentially you can, any content in the game you can do and probably guess within like a year when it was released just by how it's designed, because they have the way that they have designed things is so clear. I mean, obviously, if you know the game and have played it for a long time and know kind of these eras of it. Because, for example, when I did the Temple of the Eye quest, the one that unlocks Guardians of the Rift, I talked to, there's someone you talk to in Al-Karib, and then I think you have to go talk to someone in Varrock, and she said, I can teleport you there. I was like, oh, why, thank you, I will. and just like any quest before that, I would have had to run up to Varrock. And then I came back to her and she's like, okay, so the next thing is at Wizard's Tower. I can teleport you there. I was like, oh, well, don't mind if I do. And then I think about like Desert Treasure 2, how they added all these like stamina pools, and now Perilous Moons has a way, to avoid this downtime of just walking around the game doing nothing, and just how obvious it is that that's a newer quest, and it getting kind of very slowly transitioning into the main topic of Project Rebalance. It's like, I do wonder if there would be value in having another stage of Project Rebalance where they just rebalance the quality of like try to smooth out that, like how these things stick out like a sore thumb, where because for a long time their design has been, as we think of the ways to make the game better, we will do that, but we're not going back and applying those concepts to all of our older stuff. And I do wonder if would it ruin the nostalgia and the feeling of old school to do that, to go in and change it so that, one small favor, there's stamina pools along the way, since that's such a long and arduous quest. Or I don't know. I don't know if I even want that, but it does make me wonder that, because some parts of this game feel so different from each other. I mean, just a kind of a random example, but like if you kill something, like monsters that were released, like even just like a level 50 minion in Varlamore will have like an interesting drop table. But if you kill like abyssal demons, just standard abyssal demons that are 85 Slayer to kill, their drops are like a black sword. They're like useless. And obviously they have the whip, but you can tell that just on when they were released that their drop table is completely different. And I don't know. Do I want them to do that as part of Rebalance? Adjust every single old NPC's drop table so it doesn't feel inconsistent with the rest of the game? Sorry, I'm completely on a complete rabbit trail right now. I just got me thinking.
Well, I think it's like it's part of the cool parts about old school RuneScape. I don't really care about playing a regular Iron Man, but what does interest me is playing these like they call them snowflake, not because they're sensitive or anything, but because they're like unique. I said that once and someone was like, what is this woke bull? I can't remember. It was some, you know what I mean? They went off on some like rant and I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, just like a unique account. But those accounts really appeal to me, and it's like you because it's a lot of problem solving. It's like a puzzle, and then a lot of the times the answer to your puzzle is some weird thing. It's like some obscure drop table. Oh, you need to go to this specific monster for this item that you need for a quest or something. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool that you can figure it out. And then you bump into these weird parts where it's like, I have this combat only Iron Man, and there's all these like discords for like talking about strats. And so I was talking about like what God Wars bosses are available to me. Like, what am I able to do? And then I found out you can't do the like Zilliana because you need agility to go down. I'm pretty sure like 70 agility. I think you need to even get into the room. So you can't do that boss. And you can't do Armadillo either. Krill. That's not Krill. Kriera, because you need a grappling hook to get to the other side. And it's like, okay, the only way to get a grappling hook is by making one through smithing. And there's no monsters that drop it, that drop that item, except there's one monster that drops the grappling hook. And it's in the caves of the barbarian outpost area, so where the mithril dragons are. Mm-hmm. You can kill like a skeleton there that will drop the mithril grappling hook, but you can't get into that cave unless you do barbarian training, which means level. I think it's level. You have to level up your fire making, I think, or whatever it is you do is gonna level up your fire making. So you can't do it. And so to me that was crazy. I'm like, there's no other way to get a mithril grappling hook. And people are just kind of waiting around. We think one day it'll be added to some new NPC drop table, maybe. Until then, we have to just wait. So, anyways, it's kind of cool from that side of things where they could add this new monster and just added grappling hook to it. Maybe like the devs are thinking nothing of it. Let's just throw some weird shit on there. But then you have people who are playing these other accounts that are just like, holy crap, this unlocked something for us. Like this little tweak changed the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's why that the kind of the meme with the like snowflake accounts that came from Swampletics, the whole this changes everything. I think that's why that meme exists, is because I'm going to get this like this crazy worthless drop to any other account. The fact that this random, cave creature drops a mithril axe changes everything for my account. And, it's crazy how that stuff happens. Like recently for me, it was the saga of the mithril axe, because I wanted one for animal magnetism to get the, what's the level one? The assembler? No. Accumulator? Attractor. The Ava's attractor.
Okay.
I wanted the backpack because I was training ranged. And for that quest, you need a mithril axe. And it was like, okay, how do I get this without having to get like 60 smithing. And yeah, I was like, I looked through a bunch of NPCs and most of them I couldn't kill. And I finally it was just a whole thing of like finding, I guess there's this enchanted valley now that I had no idea existed, which is a very weird place. You know what I'm talking about? The enchanted valley?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It's like, we're going to throw a bunch of like random events that we no longer use here. Yeah. Is that the area?
Yeah. I had no idea that was a thing. It's like, yeah, if you chop the tree here, the thing will spawn the tree spirit. And if you kill it, there's a chance it'll drop a rune axe. It's like, I had no idea, because that was like a meta back in the day to get a rune axe, was just chop until the tree spirit and kill it. And I had no idea that was even a place in the game. I think there's a clue scroll there that I always went there, and I never thought twice. I was like, I don't know what this place is, but whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I got my mithril axe there, and I was like, that's so cool that they did that. I love that little area as a little homage to the dangerous random events we used to have.
Yeah, it's funny.
They should have it drop the broken axe head as a kind of, or just the axe head. It used to fly off your axe when you're doing it.
And then I remember I'd be so, like, I was always so excited to lose the axe head, but I wouldn't repair it. I would just keep the handle in my, because you would continue equipping the handle. Oh, and but as soon as you take it off, you can't re-equip it. So it's like, I thought that was cool. All right, well, I'm excited to hear how your Iron Man journey goes. I thought it might be fun here to maybe we can create like a very small time capsule. We'll revisit this in the future. But I'm curious, what grind are you like super excited about? Like, what grind in the future of your Iron Man do you think is going to be very fun to grind out? It could be like an item, or it could be maybe a skill. My first mind goes to items.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I'm at Guardians of the Rift right now, and there's a part of me that is excited to I'll probably take it to like whatever Death Runes is, because then I'll have to take a break and go do all the quests to unlock Death Runes. But I think what I'm probably most excited for is the Grandmaster quests, because all of the Grandmaster quests that I struggled with so much because I was such like a baby PVMer at that time. And the idea of going to the quest version of Vorkath with a rune crossbow and just having, Wooks walking it on my quest version kill, and that Galvek fight that made me quit the game the first time around, being able to just, get my revenge there. Those kind of things are super exciting to me. Yeah, that's probably my biggest goal for this account. And, probably the kind of, at least as far as what the guides say, the goal is for pretty much every account is to get a quest cape. So that's what I'm most excited for, is to get a quest cape on this account. Cause then
I should ask, okay, sorry, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, like, quest cape is the point, I think, for any account where it does to kind of open the game up to be like, okay, and I always kind of describe it as you beat the story mode and now the world opens up to you.
Now, so let me go back and rephrase that first question. Is there an item that you're most excited to grind out that you think will be the most fun, the most rewarding to achieve?
Probably a blowpipe.
Blowpipe.
Yeah, I'm excited to go to. Although I say that, and I don't know. This is where the kind of the new style the new content comes in, because I'm pretty sure that there's that. Is it the Addle from Perilous Moons? That I don't know if that is like a blowpipe replacement or a little bit less. I'm really excited for. All right, I'm gonna make. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I'm going to make my official answer Barrows, because Barrows is content that I have always avoided, because I had always had this thing in the back of my mind that's like, I know at some point in my life I'm going to have an Iron Man, and I'm going to save all of that huge Barrows grind for my Iron Man, because obviously on a main, it's money. And it could be mid-level money or whatever, but it's whatever. But yeah, on Iron Man, it's like necessary, and I know that it can be a place that people get locked into miserably. So I'm excited to just fully commit to the Barrows grind and try to green log it on an Iron.
And now on the opposite side, what item do you think is going to be the worst to grind for, or what item do you think you'll enjoy the least?
The enhanced crystal seed.
You might have mentioned it earlier.
100%. It's 100% corrupted gauntlet, because like I know that is. I've done a fair share of gauntlet and corrupted gauntlet, and it's rough.
It depends on how if you go dry on it, like you don't get the item.
Yeah,
you could be there for a while, and that could
be there for a very long
definitely
while,
hurt the morale.
But yeah, that, and I mean, honestly, just the in-game in general, as far as the raids and stuff, I am excited, I'm excited for, TOA, because like I know that raid, and I feel like I'm hoping in the meantime, when I hit some, like, obviously there's going to be some really long repetitive AFK grinds, like mining or something, that I'm hoping in those times I can get on the main and really get good at like Chambers of Zarek and Theater of Blood and stuff, so that when I get there on my Iron Man with much worse items and stuff, I won't be as like intimidated by them. But that's a long ways away. And yeah, for all I know, I'll probably maybe I'll just max my account before I even start raiding on it. I don't know. That's in the past kind of the type of player I've been.
That's how some people do it. They get max. They try PVM after they get max. Now, have you ever seen the TV show That's So Raven?
Oh, wow. Yeah. A long time ago.
Okay. For people who don't know, it's like this Disney, or in Canada we had the Family Channel, which is where we saw it on. And there was this like girl, and she would randomly get visions of the future of like what's going to happen. But she didn't get the whole picture. She just got like the scene of where something happened. So then she's always trying to avoid that thing from happening. And of course, her trying to avoid it causes it to happen. Okay, so let's pretend I had a That's So Raven moment. I saw into the future. I get this scene where Trey, I see you hunched over your computer that's in the living room, the family computer that everybody shares. It's that fat white big ass monitor from the early 2000s. One of those computers. That's what I picture you're using. No, maybe not. But so I get this That's a Raven vision, and I see that something happened that caused you to quit your iron. Something caused you to burn out. There was a grind that burned you out, and you got frustrated, and you either quit or you're taking a break. If I were to tell you that I saw this scene, what do you think is the grind that's going to cause you to burn out? Is that confusing? Did I explain that properly?
No. I get what you're saying.
So well in my head.
I'm trying to think of, because obviously my mind first went to CG again. I'm trying to think if there's anything before that. Because I don't think it would be any 99s or anything, or any quests or anything, because once again, if I get to those points, I can always kind of divert to other places. So I'm trying to think of, I do feel like it probably is CG, because that is one of those items that, because obviously, you have you have your rune crossbow, and then it kind of go in your blowpipe, and then it goes bofa and twisted bow. So obviously, I'm probably not going to be getting a twisted bow, and I think that's why the bofa is such a big deal to people, because it is this kind of opens the door into all this other content. So I really think it will be CG. I think that's the thing that could make me burn out, and not, because that feeling of logging on and feeling like there's only one thing you're able to do and it's something you don't want to do is the number one reason for burnout in this game, I would think. And I feel like that's where that's most likely to happen.
Okay, we're going a little bit longer than I was expecting, because I know we have our news to talk about, but I had this one question I actually wanted to ask you about, because it's something I always kind of thought, and I just thought of it now. Do you think there's pressure from the Iron Man community when it comes to deciding what items are a must have for your account? So is there a pressure? Maybe, I don't even know if it's pressure, but people saying that you need the bofa to play an Iron Man in the late game, which is then causing you to go through this grind that you might hate?
I think the explanation there, I think the answer is yes, that does happen, but I think it's not necessarily not that kind of pressure. I think what it is that a lot of people, when they start an Iron Man, they pick from there's 3 different really popular efficient Iron Man guides that people follow. The Osiris guide was kind of the OG one, I believe, that say there's ones that are just oh, here's an optimal quest guide. But then there's ones that are literally all right, you're going to start in Lumberage and you're going to do Cook's Assistant. And as you're running to Cook's Assistant, grab the shears from the general store and get your wool from the sheep, so that as you're coming back, and then grab this bucket and this hut as you're running back, and they're to the step, to the tick. And I think that a lot of people start an Iron Man and they follow that guide, and my understanding is those guides all converge at bofa, and then that's kind of it. It's all right, you did it. You've successfully gotten your Iron Man into the end game. And I think that's why that specific grind is so such a make or break for a lot of people, because they feel like that's the last bastion of I'm getting on my feet as an Iron Man, I'm becoming an Iron Man or whatever. But yeah, so I very intentionally have not looked at any of those guides or anything. Obviously I know step 1 for every Iron Man is go to Wintertodt and get 99 and before you do anything else. And I think I got to 70 when I first made this account. But yeah, I've been trying to rely on my own knowledge of the game. Obviously I've been playing this for 20 years now, so I have a lot of game knowledge. And there are some things like that Mithril Axe I was talking about where I've had to theory craft on my own. But the only thing I've been looking at the guides for is I resorted my quest helper into optimal Iron Man guide, but I'm really making an effort to avoid the that whole concept of this step by step Iron Man efficiency guide, because that sounds, it does. It sounds like a lot of pressure. It sounds like the fastest route to burning out I can think of.
Yeah, and it's like, are you even playing at that point, or is somebody playing
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah,
and
you're like
just
running
controlling?
a sim.
Yeah, I remember I had a buddy. We were playing. I used to watch him play L.A. Noire. Have you played that game?
Mm-mm.
It's like a detective game. So you're like questioning these people, and they'll tell you things, and you have to like figure out they're lying and stuff. And it's hard to figure out exactly. But I had a buddy who played that game, and then so a lot of it is just going through dialogue options and like interrogating people. And there's different options that'll get them to say certain things. But there's like a optimal way of going through every interrogation. And my friend would just watch a strategy guy that told him which options to pick. And then I was like, why don't you just watch it on YouTube at this point? Like, you're not really playing, are you?
Yeah.
You could just watch someone go through this on YouTube, and it's the same thing almost. But anyways, the reason I was asking is I had a friend, and he was playing an Iron a whole lot and got stuck on the Dragon Warhammer grind. And I remember he was telling me that people won't raid with him, won't go to Chambers of Xeric with him because it only has BGS. And then part of it is, I think maybe there's a few people that would give you shit for like not having Dragon Warhammer, but then a lot of it is like the fear of getting into a raid and then getting chirped because you don't have these specific items. So anyways, what ended up happening to him was he quit entirely. He's like, I'm not playing my Iron anymore because I can't get this Dragon Warhammer. And it made me just think made me think if there's like a pressure when it comes to grinding these bigger items. But
I think the reason
anyways, it's interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about your journeys.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, I think the reason that I haven't mentioned the Dragon Warhammer grind is because I know they're changing that drop rate, but stay tuned till next episode about that.
Yeah, because no one knows. Jagex doesn't even know what's going on there. That's the hard part about doing these rebalances. We were chatting about this before, but like off air, and we're like, should we talk about like some of these items and these drop rates that they're changing? But we're gonna talk about it, and then next week they're gonna change things, and then you have to. What do they call it? I forget what the word is, but you kind of have to be like, oh, by the way, they've since tweaked. There's been more. Anyways, nothing's set in stone, so we'll get to it. But yeah, we have the defense changes to talk about, which is equally exciting. So let's get into it. All right. So we mentioned it at the top that this was like part 2 of our discussions on these rebalance changes. And we'll be focusing on the dev blog titled NPC Defense Changes. So, as we all know, we have a ton of different stats when it comes to armor and weapons in the game. A lot of it is like a little bit confusing. Like I've played this game a lot and I don't really understand the numbers. If someone was like, it has 46 attack, I have no reference of how good that is. And I don't know. I don't like it. Tell me if this is just a me problem or if you deal with the same thing. I don't know what my stats are doing. I don't know, like when I have a higher defense, I know I'm taking less damage, but I don't really understand what's going on there. Same with like attack and stuff. I know generally strength bonus is king because you're going to do more damage. But at some point, I know accuracy takes over, but I don't know where that threshold is. I'm not sure when accuracy is better than strength. I just look at the wiki, or I go on the Discord gear server, or I have someone else tell me what to wear, or I just type in the DPS charts that we have. You type in what armor you have and the levels and stuff, and it'll tell you what does more damage. So I don't fully understand how the stats work in this game. How do you, when you like, we have all these stats, how do you feel about them? Do you know what's going on when you look at your equipment loadout?
I have kind of a basic understanding. I think the way that I think about it, and I know this will kind of speak to you as well because you are as into D&D as I am, is I know that your attack, like for melee, your attack stat is the same as in D&D, how you roll to see if you hit or not. And then once you have successfully hit, you roll damage, which is your strength stat. So that's how I kind of differentiate the difference between like accuracy and damage in this game is strength or your attack to hit, and then your damage after you have successfully hit. And then as far as defense goes, I mean, because I think they do say they use the word like it rolls against. So that's probably what makes me think of it in D&D terms of like when you when a monster rolls to hit you, it will roll its attack bonus versus your defense bonus. And so then I imagine this digital D20 gets rolled. That's, plus 150 for it to attack. And then your plus 170 from your plate armor, and it sees if it hits or not. I don't know. I think it's probably very different than that, but in my mind, that's about as far as it goes. As far as actual application of those things, yeah, I pretty much rely on the wiki and other people.
Yeah, it's like, it's tough for me to know without someone else being like, this is the weapons you want to bring. And I go, perfect. Okay, that sounds good. I have that. I can do that. Whereas like when I played other games, like a lot of MMOs, and like I remember I used to play World of Warcraft a lot, and they have a bunch of stats and you could hover over it and it would tell you the percentage of what it's doing. So it would say like your defense, you hover over your defense, it says this is reducing damage by 75% right now due to like your defense stat. You're like, oh, that's great. Or you go over like your strength and it's saying this is increasing your DPS by 38%. And you're like, oh, okay, I get this. This makes sense. RuneScape's a little bit trickier with that, but anyways, they're wanting to bring in a bunch of different stats when it comes to like their defense, basically. And it's kind of interesting because it almost seems like they want to take the treatment we have with our melee stats and applying it to magic and range. So when you look at range, you just have like a range bonus. And that's like how accurate your range attacks are. And magic's the same thing. You just have your magic bonus. But when you look at melee, you have stab, slash, and crush. So you have 3 different types of stats that like your melee weapons are divided into. So yeah, magic and range aren't like that at all, but they want to make it be that way. So essentially what they're doing to sum up a lot is they want to introduce these 3 new stats to range. So they want to add, these 3 different stats, which are heavy, standard, and light. So that's like supposed to be similar to slash, stab, and crush. And the heavy is going to be, it's looking at your ammo, which is your ammo is what's deciding what stat it's going to be. So if you have bolts and javelins, that's going to be part of the heavy stat. Standard would be arrows and magical arrows, like from the crystal bow and the bofa. And then you have light, which would be darts, knives, and other throw-in weaponry, like throwing axes and the rings you get from the Tazar caves. So they're basically having that, and which I was kind of interested to see they went this route, because this isn't really a new idea. This was pitched, I don't know if you remember this. This was pitched like a really long time ago. It might have been pitched back in their first rebalance where they nerfed the blowpipe. And they were thinking of having the 3 stats being blunt, piercing, and something else. There's a third one. I can't remember what it is, but they wanted to break it down between blunt, piercing, and something else. So it's kind of similar to this, but it would be just more flavorful descriptions, I guess.
Right.
Should I just go into magic before we talk about what this could mean?
Well, I do think
Or do you want to talk about range?
I think the range. Yeah, the range and the major, very different in the way they're approaching them in some ways.
Mm-hmm. So it's if we could look at range, it is kind of interesting because it's kind of going to make it. So the idea is to open up all of these weapon groups to have more niche items to fill in. So right now we have our with melee, you have your best in slot crush, best in slot stab, best in slot slash weapons. With range, you kind of just have like the one weapon type, and it kind of looks at the ammo. So we do kind of have this, but like you'll have you have your crossbow, the best crossbow. Well, instead of that, it's just going to be what's your best heavy weapon for this situation. And they even mentioned it too. A big part of this game is preparing and bringing the right tools for a job. So we don't have a whole lot of horizontal. We don't have a whole lot of vertical progression where it's like one weapon and then a new weapon comes out that's just better than that weapon. We don't get that too often. It's mostly like a horizontal progression where you have, like I mentioned, you have 3 different best in slot weapons that are all basically on the same tier, but one's for slash, one's for crush, one's for stab. And it's kind of going to be doing the same thing for ranged weapons and now mage weapons, or at least it's opening up the floor to get more not creative with these niche weapon styles. But they mentioned they have a whole plan of bosses that they want to like tweak as well. So they mentioned next they want to tweak it so it's weak to heavy ammo, which means the old crossbow will be really good there. It's gonna be, they're gonna be able to pull on these. I think they even said these levers that they'll be able to like. You have all these meters with every different stat, and you can really customize a boss so that a certain weapon can shine in this fight. I think it's a cool idea for like game design. I like that. We like having a bunch of different best in slot weapons, even if they're like really minor upgrades. We still like to grind for them. I think if I could like come up with like a worry for this, I'm not worried about this. But if I wanted to be, I could make this a thing. Could this remove part of the theory crafting involved when it comes to people figuring out metas for bosses? If you have all of these new stats where it makes, instead of it being like, okay, it's going to take a couple weeks to figure out which weapon works best here, it might be way easier to figure out what weapon works best here because you can do your monster examine and go, oh, Nex is really weak to heavy weapons. So it's either the ballista or the crossbow that we should bring here. Yeah, I guess it'll help you solve bosses quicker just by looking at their stats before you know the fight. But that's probably not true. I don't know. What do you think, Trey?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that this is going to be. I feel this way about a lot of the rebalances. That this sounds a lot more. It sounds like a lot more than it is, as far as like shaking up the metas and affecting the way that the game is currently played. They've been very open that like whatever the current best in slot for these weapon or for these bosses isn't going to change. They've shown some very complicated calculations that made my eyes glaze over, but essentially showing how these changes, I mean, for the most part, it's to make other options that, you know, like we were talking about last episode, to make this progression through the game much more smooth. And so a lot of these changes aren't aimed at these top tier weapons and this, you know, in-game encounters as much as it is the idea of being able to, you know, do these encounters with somewhat of subpar weapons. You know, maybe, you know, I'm kind of obviously thinking about from that like Iron Man perspective. I think a lot of it kind of comes down to like, if you're on an Iron Man and you're not able, or even on a main, you're not able to afford the best weapons for the encounter, the idea of not having this just cliff of drop off of your DPS and having more options for these monsters to do them at lower levels, you know, kind of on the magic side of things, the idea of, you know, if you don't have a trident or a shadow, being able to use your normal elemental spells and them still actually having somewhat of a competitive, you know, advantage, having some kind of comparative DPS is a lot more their goal than upsetting the metas and all this kind of stuff. Like I think the people who are opposing all these changes are, but you know, for the range side of things, I think it's kind of, it feels obvious kind of in retrospect once you kind of lay it out as like, oh, we have crush, stab, and slash. So then we have heavy, which is essentially crush, you know, your big heavy kind of crushing force, then your standard, and then your light, which is like your slash, you know, and having it broken up into 3 categories like that. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think the idea of having that reward space open so that that there's even more items in the game to grind for endlessly. And yeah, you can get all of these niche weapons, but the fact still remains, I think, that if you get a T-bow, you're going to be using it for 99% of the ranged enemies in the game. They still want to keep best, like the mega rares are the true best in slots in this game, but I think that it's more about those mid to end game weapons, making those have different uses, having a use for, I love the idea of, for so long the meta has been to never use a long bow. It's always to use a short bow. And the other thing that's so funny about ranged is that you have your 2 attack styles, or you have your 3 attack styles. You have rapid, accurate, and long range. And you always will have it on rapid, maybe long range for very niche uses. But having different little reasons to switch those around and different kind of setups and all this kind of stuff. I think it's cool. I think it's one of the things that makes RuneScape so unique is that you have to have, we have these bank tabs for different bosses, because every boss you have a little bit different armor, a little bit different inventory. And for melee, that feels like that's kind of, it makes sense. It makes sense that you bring a crush weapon to this boss, and it makes sense because it's like I love, like, one of my favorites is how spiders are weak to crush. I just think that's so fun because obviously people crush spiders, and
like skeletons too. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
I want to crush their bones.
And so all of this conversation, I think, kind of started from the idea of, like, why does a water spell not hit a fire giant any differently? And that's what kind of, I think, got the ball rolling on this. And the range side of it, was a little more surprising, but I think that it's just cool to have it, broken into those 3 categories, to where they once again, they've made it very clear that if you bring a light weapon to a monster that's susceptible to heavy weapons, it's not like immune to the light weapons. It's not going to be doing 0 damage. You just be able to do a little bit more with the heavy weapon. I think that's really cool.
It is cool. And you've alluded to it, but the magic changes, I don't know if you want to say they're more interesting, but I'm definitely a little bit more interested in them. Because magic is a weird skill. I think a lot of us know that. Like, your magic attacks have a predefined max hit, unless you get gear that increases the percentage of damage you can do. But like your wind strike will never do more than 2 damage, even if you have 99 magic. Again, ignoring the gear that you can equip to change that. But let's leave the percentage damage base gear out of the question. So you have your wind, and then suddenly the next spell after that, I think it's water, which can hit a little bit higher. And then there's earth and there's fire. But you always want to do fire because it just does more damage. It's just kind of how it's always been. Fire has been seen as the stronger skill, which is weird because the stronger spell, which is weird because like they are different elements. You would expect them to kind of work a little bit differently, which is what they want to do. They want to make monsters weak to air, water, earth, or fire. And we have some cases of this. You mentioned the fire giant. I'm pretty sure the fire giant does have a weakness to water. It just doesn't matter because the water is always going to do less damage than fire is because it's capped. It's capped at like whatever it is, which is it's a lower number than fire. So it's like this weird system they had, and they tried to do it. And I think Dragon have the same thing. Like they have a more resistance to fire, and they have a little bit less resistance to water, but it didn't even matter. It still made sense to do magic or fire because it was going to do more DPS and kill them faster. I remember it's when I was playing this game back, it must have been like 2015 or something. I was a pretty low level. And there was like this streamer boom going on with old school RuneScape. So we had a lot of streamers playing the game before a lot of streamers were just like staking and they take people's money and stuff. It was like a weird Twitch ecosystem there was. But I was watching Mr. Mammal at the time, and he was a lot smaller than he is now. If you don't know Mr. Mammal, he's a streamer. He's a pretty popular streamer for old school RuneScape, and he's been doing it for a really long time. And I was like going through all the bolt weapons, all the different bolt types, because you can dome your bolts with different gems, and they do stuff. And I believe it's the Sapphire gem. It did this like water attack. And it had a chance of doing this water attack. And I saw that it did extra damage to fire-based monsters. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I remember asking Mr. Mammal, because I saw streamers as like, before this, I was playing League of Legends, and the people who streamed League of Legends were the best players that play the game for the most part. So they were really well-versed in stuff. You could ask them questions, and they were pretty much like experts for the hero they played, or I forget what they called, champion, and the roles and all that sort of stuff. So you could ask them like the specific questions they would usually know. And I kind of thought that like old school streamers were similar. So I remember asking Mr. Mammal, hey, where should I be bringing these sapphire bolts? Should I be bringing them to dragons? Should I be bringing them to fire giants? And I just remembered he saw my message, and he was like, I don't even know what sapphire bolts do. I was like, what do you, and I remember thinking like, he doesn't even know what they do. Like I thought like, so, and then I realized that like, when old school RuneScape is just a different game. There's just so much more going on. And it was kind of, and I realized that like, it was kind of a cool moment, because I realized that old school RuneScape, you don't need to be the best to be a really popular streamer, because people aren't watching streamers because they're the best. They're watching them because old school RuneScape is a very slow paced game. So you have more of a chance to really show your personality on stream. You're not having to focus hardcore while you're gaming like you would with League. So a lot of people gravitate to the streamers because they just like who they are as people. And they're funny and they're entertaining, not necessarily like the best, and they know everything about the game. Of course, there are streamers like that, but anyway, so I had this like funny moment where I thought he just knew everything there is about sapphire bolts, because I thought it was somewhere in the meta, because it specifically said it did more damage to fire creatures, and then I realized it doesn't matter, because there's still it's way better to not worry about the extra damage it's going to do, because it's still not going to do enough damage compared to like your rune scimitar or something stupid. So all that to say was, when I was a little bit younger, I was shocked that there was an element of this, of what we're talking about. It just didn't matter because it all sucked. So Jagex is going to like double down. They're going to make it actually matter, it seems. So when you're going to fight dragons, it might make more sense to bring out, your water spells. Actually, they bring it down where they say metallic dragons will be extra weak to earth spells, and then chromatic dragons will be extra weak to water spells and stuff like that. Anyway, a lot of monsters are going to have these different stats applied. What are your thoughts on like these elemental weaknesses?
I think it's great. In a lot of ways, going back to D&D, I think it does feel more like that moment, in D&D when you're fighting the fire monster and you ask the DM like, hey, if I use this water spell, is this going to hit him harder? And the DM's like, yeah, I like that kind of realism to it. I think it, once again, this is not replacing the shadow. It's not replacing the trident. It's just trying to bring these elemental spells into their own niche. And I think that's super cool. I would love to see, I'd love to see them take this further, coming from I'm a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, and I love, one of the best things about that show is watching how they combine a lot of, they find there's the basic 4 elements, and then they do some different things with that. Watch that show if you haven't, but
See a couple episodes. It's not bad.
Oh, it's so good.
That's it. Just a couple episodes though.
For example, the one of the things is like how fire kind of extends into lightning. And so like that would be cool to see that kind of grow into that, like some lightning spells as an extension of fire spells and stuff like that. but it's very, I don't know, it's cool, and but it's also, looking at the list of what they have so far, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this I don't know, there's a lot less than I expected. It's like, okay, yeah, demons take, because demons are kind of like, fiery, kind of hellish, so they're gonna take more damage from water spells. The air is very interesting, because air is mostly undead, like ghosts, and then aviancies and Kriara, so like flying things. So I guess that makes sense. They're flying in the air. You're going to kind of blow them out of the air, which is kind of a fun idea. The ghosts.
You're saying this with air, right?
Yeah, this is for the air spells.
Is that kind of weird? Because like, don't you think like birds should be okay with flying in the wind, or do they suddenly like stop flying if it's windy out? I guess if it's like a hurricane, they wouldn't.
Yeah,
unless they do.
I see the argument for air, but I honestly I thought Earth made more sense for that. Like you drop a rock on them, and that'll knock them out of the sky a lot better than than disrupting their flight pattern, I would think. And if you look at what the proposals are, they don't have much for Earth. So I'm kind of surprised they don't move that to Earth. Which, on a side note, I think it would be really cool when they do all this to give a unique casting animation for each of the 4 elements. Because like, I think it would be super cool to change your like Earth cast into literally like shooting a rock, and then like having like the water be like a wave or something. That would be so cool if they could give each of those unique animations. But all that to say, I think it's very cool, and I hope that it does. They kind of made it sound like in their Q&As that it's going to be kind of just this, and maybe when new stuff comes out, they'll have these built into them. I would like to see kind of what I was talking about earlier, more of that integrated into the old parts of the game. But yeah, what they've done so far is cool. The air blows away ghosts, which I guess. So anybody out there who feels like your house is haunted, if you see a ghost, just turn a fan on; it'll blow them away, I guess.
That's why I keep my fans on in every room.
It's the best ghost hunting tactic that hasn't been found out yet.
I love having fans on. I just like the white noise. I got a bit of tinnitus from when I worked in construction and heavy metal concerts when I was a kid. So I love like having just fans running, because I just like the hum of it. And early on, my wife doesn't like it as much, but she read something about this. It's an old wives' tale, but it's called like still air. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
So like we had a newborn, and she was very afraid of like sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. So yeah, sudden infant death syndrome, which is like kids just die randomly and they don't know really what happened, and it's usually from like suffocation or something. But like it's supposed to be like a phenomenon, which is like kind of debated in the science community. I think whether like there's a lot of uncertainty there, but like a kid could just be going down for a nap and they just stop. You go to get them and they've just died. It's like terrifying. So like it made sense. She was like super scared about it, but she was also just like constantly reading about it. Whereas like I was not reading about it, so it was like less of a thing in my world. So anyways, so she read this thing about the still air, where if you put them down and there's no movement going on in the room, it could cause like the baby to like either they're not breathing in oxygen, or maybe their body just stops thinking to breathe because of the lack of like stimuli or something. I don't know. So she said that we have to have a fan on in his room at all times. And now I've since like, I'm like, she'll be like, it's too cold, let's turn the fan off in the bedroom. And I'll be like, no, we can't. Still, I don't want to wake up and one of us died because like sudden adult death syndrome or something like that. Cause we were stuck in a room with still air.
Yep.
So I kind of just like throw it back in her face just so I can get the fans on.
Yeah, I'm also, I cannot sleep if the fan's not on. Everything just feels too still. It really does. I don't know. It's weird.
And for me, like I'm a very light sleeper. I've always had problems sleeping. So like if my wife's like snoring or something, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. So I need to have the hum of something that's consistent, because I can't stand when it's like there's a noise that's not consistent that I can tune out, like snoring or something else. Anyways, yeah, all this stuff looks pretty cool though, and I think a worry that I've seen is that this is just highlighting how magic combat needs to be reworked, because like it's just works differently than range and mage, and it causes issues, and the worry that this is either going to not affect anything or maybe affect too much. But it's just people complaining on Reddit, so who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I think it's a cool idea overall. I think it makes sense. I'm surprised it's taken this long for it to be like added, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, out of everything, I think the biggest like actual change to the game is the way that they've changed how max hits work. So essentially, it used to be that from your strike spells, the air strike would have a max hit of like 3, and then you unlock water strike, which has a max hit of like 5, and then fire strike has a max hit of like 13. And they're going to change that now so that when you unlock water strike, that max hit of 5 will now apply to both your air and your water strike. And when you get to magic 13 and unlock fire strike, now your air, water, earth, and fire spell strikes will all have a max hit of 13. So that's a big change, because for one thing, and they actually mentioned this is one of the reasons why they didn't want to do it like this, is now you could get to 13 magic with a staff of air and mind runes and have unlimited casts of that with a 13 max hit, and not have to, be spending as many runes for that. You can use the air spells with unlimited air runes from a staff. You don't have as many of those runes being used, which, early game could be a very big deal.
Yeah, it all seems pretty cool. I'm interested to see it. I wonder if it's going to have some bigger. It sounds like it'll have some bigger impacts, especially the early game, because air is a lot easier to cast spells for them.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder. Like, do they have to rejig the way runes work now? Because like the way it worked before was like 1 air, 1 mind in order to cast your air spells. Water was 1 water, 1 air, 1 mind. Earth was like 2 earth, 1 air, 1 mind, I think. I can't remember. I'm getting all mixed up. Anyways, yeah, I am looking forward to the changes. I think it's going to be kind of cool. I like the way... I'm interested to see if this is going to shake anything up, especially when we have like the nightmare staff and all that in the game. Any final notes before we move on?
No, yeah. No, I mean, I think it's, once again, huge disclaimer. All this stuff is probably going to be completely invalid by the time we release this episode, because they've been changing things so quickly. But yeah, as it stands now, I think I think it's great, and I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, these are all ideas being pitched. Nothing, it's not being pulled, but we'll have another, I guess, announcement, dev blog once they actually add it into the game and exactly what they're adding. So more on that later. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll head over to the Grand Exchange, and then we'll come back and end it with some of the callers. All right, we're going to take a quick little break and head on over to the Grand Exchange. This is a segment where we talk about how you can support the show if that's something you want to do. That's what we talk about here. Of course, sometimes I try to sneak in a little bit of, merching gold GE talk into the game, but honestly, I've been playing my my combat only Iron Man the past little bit. It's been a lot of fun, but the market has been not in my sights at all. But I will say this, guys, they brought out some zombie pirates, and it is insane money for low levels. Like, it's crazy. We're gonna have to talk about it on next week's episode, but I'll just say right now that my combat only Iron Man has been sitting there for a little bit, and holy crap, does it ever spit out money. They're like level 20s. They're like level 20s and level 30s, and the amount of gold they drop is actually nuts. It's not like game breaking, but if you're like a low level, it is. It's so good. I'm getting like one rune weapon, like a battle axe, like every 4 or 5 kills. And they're like level 20. It's crazy. Like, I'm literally making like 200K every 10 minutes on a level, like, they're level 20s. Oh my gosh, they're so easy to kill. Be careful, there's a lot of PKers. Anywho, we'll talk about that more next week, but I had to just sneak that in there because the money's nuts. It's actually nuts. Okay, guys, if you want to support the show, one of the ways you can do that is by going to patreon.com/thewilderness podcast. There's some fees that come with running the show, and we really appreciate everyone who helps support and cover those costs, because it makes doing the show only cost time, not money. Which, it is what it is. So thank you to our top tier supporters, The Kazi, Splimo, Flarch, DeSasquatch, Yulfi Ferrick, and Basic Pickle. Thank you all so much. And thank you also to everyone else who supports the show. We really, really appreciate it. Of course, not everyone wants to use Patreon. You can head over to buymeacoffee.com/Dilz instead to make a one-time pledge. If you prefer that method over Patreon, whatever. We also have a Discord, so let's say you're somebody who likes to spend a little bit of extra to get the Discord Nitro. You get a couple free boosts to send to any server you want, and some people decide to send it our way. You can also pay for them as well, but who's doing that? You're crazy if you're doing that. So thank you too much to A Crusty Spoon, Flourish, Kool-Aid, Myzix, Omens Bad, and Rotenda. Thank you all so much for boosting the server. And if you want to join our Discord server, it's discord.gg/thewilderness. We have a PVM race cooking right now. So if you want to join that event, go on and sign up. It's like, it's very heavily inspired by Slay the Spire this time around. We've done this before. This time it's a Slay the Spire theme. So thank you so much to Weiss for doing all the heavy lifting on that one, because it looks sick. But guys, it's a couple teams. You're racing to complete this path of different PVM stuff as a group. And if you've played Slay the Spire, there's a rogue-like element to it. Some of the bosses are random that you're gonna have to kill. That's kind of it. I'm probably not. Anyway, go check it out on Discord, guys. It looks sick. Okay, anyways, I've been rambling way too much. Let's get back to the episode. All right, we are back, and we do have some callers we need to get to. Some of these came from, a little bit ago. We've had a few tighter recording timelines, so we just weren't able to visit these on the past few recordings. But here we are today. We've got a few to get through. So let's listen to our first caller from RS Jono.
Hey Dilz, RS Jono here. Hope you're doing well. Great question. I can think of a couple of good times, but the best one that comes to mind is coming up with a bedtime story for my daughter and thinking, why not just base it off a RuneScape quest? So that's what I did. So the first one that we did was Lost City, and it was a hit, naturally. Who doesn't like that quest? And then the next night, I thought, well, why don't we continue so long? And I think I did Dragon Slayer. And that happened for a couple of days. And it kind of died off. But talking about it now, I think I might have to get back into it. We might have to complete some quest lines with maybe we'll do a Song of the Owls bedtime story. It might be a bit longer than normal. Thanks for all you're doing with the podcast, mate. I know it's flat out having kids and work and family, but you do a great job, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone when I say thank you. Speak to you soon. Bye.
RS Jono, thank you so much for calling in with that. Honestly, such a great idea. I heard this when you actually first sent it in, and I was like, honestly, that's such a great idea. Because I read, there's this thing when you have kids. I don't know if it's super common, but I've read about it and it's happening to me, and it's called routine creep, where when I used to put my kid to bed, it first started off with I would just change him. I would put him down, give him a little bit of maybe a back. I would tuck him in, basically, give him his teddy bears, and then say goodnight. He would fall asleep. And then he wanted me to read a book one day, so I read him a book. And now he wants 2 stories read per night. And then when the 2 stories are done, we look out and watch cars for like a couple minutes. So we just look out the window and watch the cars drive by and kind of say goodnight to the cars. And then we tuck them in. And then I have to go get my wife. My wife comes out. She has to give him a bit of a head massage. And then we tuck them in and go. So this routine creep, which is because it's problematic because it's like a 30-minute thing now when we put him to bed. But my point is I have to read him 2 stories every night. And oh my gosh, like I thought I had a lot of books for him, but I don't because I've read every single one of them like 20 times. And it's like, I have them memorized. I know what pages to skip if I'm too lazy. So I'm like, I can skip these 2 and it won't matter to the plot and he won't notice either. But anywho, the RuneScape, telling them RuneScape quests as a story is such a good idea. I didn't start off with Lost City or Dragon Slayer. That's crazy. Those are such, I don't even know. Those are such long stories. Trey, what do you think would make the best bedtime stories? Or you know what? I'll let you think about it, but I'll tell you which one works really, really well. It's Cook's Assistant. I'm serious. It is a great kid's story. It starts off with a cook who's making the king a birthday cake, but doesn't have the ingredients. I know it's the Duke, but my kid doesn't know. I don't even really know what a Duke is. So we go with king. And then we have to run and get some of the ingredients. So we get to visit a chicken farm to get an egg. We get to visit a cow farm to get some milk. And we get to visit a wheat farm. And we have to process some flour. And just going through that, he loves it because he loves animals. And then just hearing about how you're walking to the chicken farm to get an egg, it's a great story. And I had this idea when you first sent it in and I started telling him these stories. Like there is I was originally like not going to say anything because I'm like, this is going to be my idea, but I'm just going to throw it out there and someone else can get it made. Someone should collaborate with Jagex and literally make a bunch of the RuneScape quests into kids' stories. How many of us are going to go out and buy that? I know for a fact there's a ton of we're all getting older who are playing this game. Is like a lot of us are having families and all that now, and we will buy anything RuneScape related. The board game, the cookbook that came out recently. If there was a children's bedtime stories or just children's stories, but there were RuneScape quests, that is such a good idea. You get Cook's Assistant, you get Sheep Shearer, you get Imp Catcher, a bunch of those easy and perfect stories for kids. Maybe like avoid, I don't know, Dragon Slayer 2, sad as fuck at the end. Or like Desert Treasure or something. But I don't know, any stories that you think would make like really good short stories in book form?
I'm kind of looking at my quest list here. One that's coming up for me on my list here soon that I always thought had a really fun story is Troll Romance.
I don't remember how that one goes.
You're kind of facilitating this romance between these 2 trolls. So it's just a really silly one. You know, the trolls are obviously very kind of dumb and simple in their way they do things. And so you're trying to, if I remember, you're getting them flowers and stuff and trying to, make it's just a cute little quest where you're trying to get this romance between these 2 trolls. Another one that I'm looking at is the Fremnic Trials. Because if you remember that quest, you're trying to become one of the Fremnics and they're giving you these trials, but they're kind of goofy. The things you do, it's not necessarily like, it's not like, oh, you just have to fight this really big monster. There's some puzzly type of stuff. There's some kind of adventure-y type of stuff you got to do of these trials. So I think that'd be a fun one for a kid. These kind of...
There's a pet rock somewhere? Who doesn't love a pet rock?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, maybe I'm thinking of the stories I would have liked as a kid, but, like more of like the Heroes Quest, the Legends Quest, those kind of ones where you have these quests with all these kind of steps that you have to go through and little sub adventures and stuff. I think would be, it'd be the kind of thing where if the kid falls asleep, halfway through, you can pick it up the next day, and because there's kind of little story arcs within story arcs. But my favorite,
and like Sorry.
I was just gonna say my quests in the game have always been the really silly ones, and so there's a ton of those that I think would be really fun for a kid.
Oh yeah, no kidding. But I want to go back to your Legends quest. Like, if that was a short story, it's like perfectly normal for a kid's story to just randomly take a turn sometimes. And so like if you're just reading a kid's story and then you turn the page and you just killed a unicorn. That sounds dark, but like, man, I was reading. Love You to the Moon and Back or something like that. And that's not a kid's story, man. That's so friggin' sad. Where it's just like, it starts off with this mom and this baby. And like, I'm not even joking. I read it. I was crying by the end of it. It was so sad. Because like, it starts off with this mom and this baby. And she's like, just telling you how much she loves the baby. And I love you to the moon and back. That's kind of the whole idea. And then the kid grows older. And the routines change, but the mom says, I love you to the moon and back. Or I can't exactly remember it, but it's just kind of going. Kid keeps growing up until the kid's an adult. And then the mom is really old and dying. And then it ends with the kid is now an adult and is holding his mom in his arms the way she was holding him as a baby. And then he's saying how much he loves her to the moon and back. And then she dies. And then he has a new kid and he does the same thing.
My gosh.
Like, it just takes a turn all of a sudden and you're like, this is really sad. Like, even just talking about it, they like get a little bit emotional. I was like, this is nuts. And then I had these like fairy tale books for kids, and it's like the story of this wolf that's like dressing up. I can't even remember, but it like really messed up where it's like the moral of the story is don't pretend to be someone you're not, or the farmer is going to chop you up and eat your liver. Like literally it would say like something insane like that at the end. And it's like, I'm like, whoa, what the? Anywho, they're crazy. Like some kids' stories are like just out there. They're like, take turns, man. Anywho, Jono, thanks so much for calling in. Yeah, that's a great idea. Would love to hear what are the hit and misses for your RuneScape kids books. All right, next up we have a call from Matacos1. Oopsie.
It's recording. Dilz, it's Matacos1. Your favorite Austrian and skateboarding coach. Yes,
Nice.
Today I am calling to convince you that learning skateboarding in your 30s is totally still an option. A lot of the professional skaters out there started in their teens, but honestly, they didn't take it seriously. They just thought it was cool. They didn't wear helmets. They broke their bones. They got concussions. They drank alcohol. They smoked pot, etc. So when you're past your teens and 20s, that's when you really start to care more about your hobbies in general, at least in my opinion. Like, for example, I am big into learning languages, and people always say you learn faster when you're a kid, but in my opinion and experience, when you're an adult, it's really better because you have better time management skills and you're more committed generally, and so forth. So quite honestly, if I were you, I would buy a skateboard, buy a good helmet, buy some pads, and get out there. Also, if you want any skating music, hit me up. Skate punk is my favorite genre since like 2015 when I started playing in bands. So anyway, peace.
Oh, it's like the best type of music. I got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. They remade the first and second ones. I've been playing those. Oh, the music's the best. Matacos1, thanks so much for calling in. Trey, have you gotten into any hobbies later into your life, into your adulthood?
It's probably no surprise to anybody, at least in the clan. I'm going to say board games for this one because I've been absolutely obsessed with board games for the past few months.
Is this like a new endeavor? Like 5 years ago, were you playing board games a bunch?
It was essentially like Risk in the Game of Life and like Candyland for 20 years or like 16, 18 years. And then it was Settlers of Catan for the next 10 years. But then, yeah, we went this last Christmas, we went and we're staying with my family in New Mexico, and we played Everdell, which is definitely like a next step up in gaming. And that got me like going down this path of like, oh, games are so different now. There's so many more options for board games. And so I've gotten, since Christmas, I've bought probably 20 to 30 new board games, and it's just been like this obsession for me. And I've passed that on to the clan. I've started the skilling and chilling thing, just to show people the same thing that kind of blew my mind of like, oh, there's more games than Monopoly and Catan. Which it's been so fun and it's crazy. And hopefully the full circle moment of that is when I can finally play the RuneScape board game, which I've heard is really good.
It is fun. It is quite fun.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, yeah, that's, I can't even really say that video games are a hobby, because I relate with, I think it's Sebe, who's kind of said in the past, he's like, I don't play games, I just play RuneScape. And I kind of relate to that, because every time I try to play other video games, I end up just back at RuneScape. But
it's kind of the same. And the problem is, I remember like a new guy would start, or I'd start a new job, or you're just in a new area, and you'd mention, oh, I like to play video games. And then suddenly it's like, oh, really? What do you play? And it's like, we don't play the same games. Like, I'll tell you that right now. We're the new Call of Duty. No, we don't play. Man, I'll tell you right now, we don't play the same games. So now I'm like, I don't even tell. Couldn't even tell people I'm a gamer, because then it's like, let's talk about the newest games. Nah, I want to talk about a game that came out like 30 years ago, and I played it as a kid, and you probably played it as a kid.
Like, oh yeah, I remember that back in the day. Like, yeah, I still play it every single day, and I'm on a podcast about it, and I'm in a clan for it. Oh,
I'm like, I play it more than what I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I definitely relate to that. Although, like, recently I started playing Witcher. I have never really made it far in that game, but I was like, work's been just like crazy busy, and I work from home from my computer, so I was like, I need to be in this office less. I started playing Witcher, and it's like, you know what? For like less than $20, this is I really lucked. Like, you really benefit from not playing a bunch of like the modern games, because when you do go to play them, oh, they're like $20, and it's such a good game. It's great.
Well, I mean, something that I love about the fact, like, I guess being a busy adult, is that you have these things that your hobbies that you're super interested in, and just because of being a busy adult, you can't be on them constantly. And the thing the silver lining of that's so fun is when you do come back to them, you only have time for whatever is like the best of the best. Like when I finally have time to sit down and watch a movie, it's like, okay, what is like the one everybody's been raving about, instead of just like, oh, I don't know what to watch right now, I'll just throw something on. And so like, you get to. You only have time for the stuff that's kind of gone through the cycle of people trying it out and whatever it is, and you can see what the crowds have decided is the best use of your time there, and you're not the one on the front lines trying stuff out.
Oh yeah, my in-laws they really like to watch movies, and I don't watch a whole lot of movies, but they watch a lot, because every time I go over, they're watching some like. It's kind of like a new movie that came out, but like I hadn't heard of it, and it's like maybe a recognizable actor in it, but like, and then I watch it, and I'm like, this sucks. Like this is like not. This just isn't a good movie. And but they're like fine with it. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. Not every movie has to be good. And it's like, I watch movies so little that it better be good, because. Yeah. I know there's so many good movies out there that I haven't seen. I'm not wasting my time watching one that sucks.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I have a problem when it comes to hobbies, because like so many things look so cool to me, and I really want to get into them. But as I'm getting older, like I just have less time available, so I have to really pick and choose. And skateboarding does sound really cool, but I haven't dived in. Like normally I'm like, I'm interested. I'm going to go buy all the gear. I'm going to get everything. Get all ready for it, but I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic and like make sure I actually have the time, because there's just so much I want to do in life right now. I've started Warhammer's been kind of cool, painting those little miniatures. I want to get chickens sometime. There's just like a whole lot of stuff that looks really cool, and I have to make sure I don't just recklessly spend the money that I shouldn't be on something that I don't have the time to pursue. So anyways, my whole point is the skateboarding thing, I'm unsure. I'm still thinking about it. What is a huge driving force is how much my kid wants to do it. And I think he's just too little right now to actually skateboard. Like I was going to get him one. I was going to go to the store and everything, but I was like, he can't really do much on it. There's no, it's the smallest skateboard is still going to be huge for him. So anywho, that might be a future pursuit. We'll see. And we have one more call in from That's Johnny T. Let's hear what he has to say.
Wilderness Podcast. This is Johnny T. Yo, what up? So that's Johnny T here. Wanted to chime in. I like the Hunter Guild. I wish the rewards were a little bit better. I do like the flow of doing the rumor, grabbing the rumor, doing the hunter like Slayer little, trip, and then getting the Quetzal back. I do like the Quetzal. It feels
Quetzal's
fun.
cool.
It feels new. I do wish the rewards kind of like were just better. Like I just wish it was just more like different things, not just like herb lore, not just like herbs and spear tips and shit like that. It is cool cooking the new meat and learning that it heals, 10 and then 9 a couple seconds later. That's kind of cool. The actual like outfit, it's neat. I wish I had a little buff, but other than that, I'm satisfied. I've been doing the hunting contracts for a while I do farming. So, yeah, thanks, Wilderness Podcast. Dilz, I really appreciate you, dude. Thanks. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
That's Johnny T. Thanks so much for the call in. The Hunters Guild. Trey, have you been doing much Hunters Guild since we last spoke about it?
No,
I guess not.
Yeah, I've switched to the iron. Although I will say, like I kind of mentioned earlier, but yeah, there's been someone in the clan who every time I'm like, what should I do next? They're always like, Hunter, man, get your Hunter to 99. Like you're gonna have. I think a lot of it's based around the prayer XP you can get, but from those the bone shards or whatever you get there. But yeah, it's I know a lot of people in the clan have been doing it, and a lot of people have been saying how much they like it, and it's getting them to do Hunter and appreciate Hunters. So yeah, I think it's seen as overall a success, but I think Johnny T's sentiments there about how I wish there were more uses for a lot of the items you get is probably pretty universal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like nothing. There's like the skilling outfit, which is fine. And then there's that one Hunter's kit, it is good. But I think that's kind of it, which is surprising. Like I kind of wish there was, I don't know. Like if it was a PVM boss, you'd get like all these other things. Like you could also use them in other scenarios, but it's like the hunter stuff is just really for the hunting rumors.
Well, and something that like with this new account that I've been playing, on an Iron Man, early game crafting is a huge pain. Honestly, crafting in general is kind of a pain on an iron. But something that like has been like, I was thinking about the other day, like about how annoying it is with early game crafting. And I was thinking about the hunting guild and it's like, okay, so we have crafting kind of has a hole that needs to be filled. And then you have this, you're getting these hunter kits with all these rewards that are all these raw materials. So like, I feel like there could have been something there where you're doing something crafting with that, I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I wish some of these skilling activities, the rewards could be applied outside of that skilling activity. Like I think I mentioned this last episode when we were talking about the skills, but like Wintertod with the Bruma torch, like I'm surprised you can't do anything outside of Wintertod with it for the most part. Everything seems to be just so self-contained. Whereas if it was a PVM boss, they would definitely want you to unlock things from this boss that could be used on other things and other bosses. But for some reason, skilling is very much like, this outfit will make this same activity better. And it's like, okay, that's it. It's a little disappointing, I guess. You can't take these new tools and use them anywhere else. You just keep using them for what you're doing, except for now you have nothing else to look forward to when it comes to unlocking stuff.
Yeah, one of the flags, like it, though, the soapboxes I've been on recently is the concept of barbarian construction, which is I've never heard anybody else mention this, but so this is my patented idea. But barbarian construction, which is the idea of using furs from hunting for construction of like tents and stuff. I have a couple ideas of what tents could be used for in game, but essentially the idea of having a use for all those furs you get that would make them consumable.
Right.
So that's my big money idea that I can't really elaborate on any further than that.
Well, let's wait for Farlamore Part 2. Maybe we will get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Johnny T, I think we both agree with your sentiments there. All right, so that was our callers for this week. Let's do some housekeeping and talk about how you can, I don't know, join the community and stuff. There's a SpeakPipe link in the show notes of this episode. You can click on it, leave us a message for whatever you want. It could be about something we talked about this episode, or maybe some past thought, or some story you want to share, whatever it is. I love when we get callers. It's like one of my favorite parts of the show. We have a clan, which is Clan Wild. Feel free to join if you would like. We have a Discord server, discord.gg/thewilderness. And lastly, our email is thewildernesspodcast@gmail.com. Don't message me on Twitter because I don't look at Twitter at all. So let's not promote that one anymore because I just don't want to have to go on it, I guess. I don't know. I never really got into Twitter, so not missing much, I don't think. Our song of the week, let's go with something magical. Magic Dance. Let's go with Magic Dance. This is a music track that is unlocked in East Yanil. It is a slow and peaceful track. This track has a very similar chord progression to Sea Shanty. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. And I guess next week we get to talk about it's a bit of fiasco, Nightmare drop rate changes and Dragon Warhammer stuff and other rebalancing.
Yeah, I got a headache already.
People are not happy, but they're also not happy with how things currently are. So we'll get into it next week. Thanks everyone. We'll see you then.
Bye.